What do you do when someone challenges your data in the middle of a presentation, in front of your entire team?
Today we'll teach you how to open a presentation with confidence, guide your audience through it professionally, and handle even the toughest questions without losing your composure.
Welcome to Learn English. I'm William, here with Sarah, and today we are at B2 level. Our topic is one of the most requested by our listeners: how to give a business presentation in English, and how to survive the Q&A session afterwards.
In today's scenario, William plays an analyst giving a quarterly results presentation to stakeholders. I play a challenging audience member who asks some tough questions. This is very realistic in any English-speaking workplace. You need to be ready for this.
In the first conversation, you'll hear the opening of my presentation and the signposting language I use to guide the audience. In the second conversation, Sarah challenges my data and you'll hear exactly how a professional responds. Let's begin. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining today's quarterly review. I know we all have a lot on our plates, so I'll be as concise as possible. My name is William, and I'm the lead analyst for the APAC region. I'll start by giving you a quick overview of our Q2 performance. From there, I'll move on to the key drivers behind the numbers. Then, I'll walk you through our projections for Q3 and the strategic actions we are recommending. And finally, we'll open the floor for questions. Does that structure work for everyone? So, turning to Q2 performance, the headline number is a 12% revenue increase year-on-year. This is broadly in line with our target of 10 to 14%, so we are sitting comfortably within our projected range. Moving on to the key drivers, there are three I want to highlight. First, stronger than expected performance in the enterprise segment. Second, a reduction in customer churn, which was down 8% versus the previous quarter. And third, the successful rollout of our premium tier product, which has exceeded its adoption targets by 22%. Now, if I could draw your attention to slide 7, this is where it gets interesting. The data-driven insight here is that the growth is not uniform across regions. APAC is outperforming, while EMEA is lagging slightly, and I'll explain why in a moment. To briefly summarize before we move to Q3 projections, Q2 was a strong quarter overall. We hit our targets, we improved retention, and we successfully launched a new product line. However, we do have regional gaps that require attention going forward. Turning now to Q3 projections, we are forecasting continued growth in the 8 to 11% range. This assumes stable macroeconomic conditions and the continued rollout of our expanded sales team. I'll pause here briefly. Are there any initial questions before I get into our strategic recommendations?
Excellent presentation opening. Let's focus on the signposting language William used to guide the audience.
Signposting phrases are the GPS of a presentation. They tell the audience where you are and where you're going. I used several classic ones. I'll start by, to say what comes first. From there, I'll move on to transition to the next section. And finally, to signal the last item.
Other powerful signposting phrases include, turning now to change topics smoothly. To focus the audience on something specific, you say, if I could draw your attention to slide 3. And to briefly summarize to recap before moving on. These make you sound polished and in control.
Notice I also used broadly in line with. This means our results generally matched our expectations. It's a very professional way to say we hit our targets without sounding boastful. You can also say within the expected range or consistent with our projections.
William, thank you for the presentation. I do want to push back on the Q2 numbers though. You're showing 12% revenue growth, but you haven't adjusted for the currency fluctuation in APAC. If we strip that out, the real growth is closer to 7%. Can you clarify?
That's a really important point, and I appreciate you raising it. You're right that the 12% figure is on a reported basis. The constant currency growth is indeed lower. I believe it's around 8.5%, not 7%, but I want to make sure I'm giving you the precise figure. Can I take that offline and send you the breakdown by end of day?
I'd appreciate that. My second question is around the Q3 forecast. You're projecting 8 to 11% growth, but that assumes stable macroeconomic conditions. Given what we're seeing with interest rates right now, isn't that assumption quite optimistic?
That's a fair challenge. I'd actually like to elaborate on that point because our macro assumptions are quite conservative relative to industry consensus. The 8 to 11% range already builds in a moderate headwind scenario. Our base case does not assume conditions improve. It assumes they remain roughly as they are today.
All right. One more thing. You said the premium tier exceeded its adoption targets by 22%. But is that based on active users or just registered accounts? Those two metrics are very different.
Excellent question, and I should have been more precise in my phrasing. That's on me. The 22% figure refers to active users, defined as users who logged in at least twice in the past 30 days. Registered accounts would show an even higher number. I'll make sure that definition is explicit in the written report we circulate after this meeting.
Appreciated. I think the story is actually quite strong if we're clear about those definitions. Thanks for addressing my questions directly.
Thank you, Sarah. These are exactly the kinds of questions that make the analysis stronger. Are there any other questions from the room before I close out? No? Then let me leave you with the key takeaway. Q2 was solid, Q3 looks achievable, and the main task for this leadership team is closing the regional gap in EMEA. Thank you all for your time.
That Q&A was intense, and William handled it brilliantly. Let's look at the strategies he used.
When Sarah challenged my data, I didn't get defensive. I said, that's a really important point, and I appreciate you raising it. This is called buying time. You acknowledge the question while your brain catches up. It also signals to the audience that you're open and collaborative, not threatened.
William also used "take that offline," a very common business English phrase. It means you'll discuss something in a separate conversation rather than in the meeting. Use this when a question is too detailed for the current setting, or when you need time to verify information before answering.
And notice how I handled my own mistake. When Sarah pointed out I wasn't specific about the user metric, I said, that's on me. I should have been more precise. In professional settings, taking ownership of errors quickly, without excuses, actually builds credibility rather than damaging it. It shows confidence and honesty. Now let's practice the most important presentation and Q&A phrases. Repeat each one out loud, clearly, and confidently. I'll start by giving you a quick overview, and then I'll move on to the key findings.
If I could draw your attention to slide 7, this is where it gets interesting.
That's a really important point. Can I take that offline and send you the breakdown later?
I should have been more precise in my phrasing. That's on me.
Perfect. These phrases work in any business presentation, in any industry. The more you practice them, the more natural and confident you'll sound.
Quiz time. Let's see how well you followed today's presentation. I'll ask, William will answer. Question 1. What is signposting language? And give 2 examples William used in his presentation.
Signposting language consists of phrases that guide the audience through a presentation by telling them where you are and what comes next. Examples William used include, I'll start by giving you an overview, moving on to the key drivers, and turning now to Q3 projections.
Question 2. What does "take that offline" mean, and why did William use it?
It means to discuss something in a separate conversation outside the main meeting. William used it when Sarah asked for precise currency-adjusted figures. He needed time to verify the exact number, so instead of guessing in front of everyone, he offered to send the breakdown later.
Question 3. When Sarah pointed out the user metric was unclear, how did William respond, and why was that a good strategy?
He immediately acknowledged the mistake by saying, that's on me. I should have been more precise. This is effective because taking ownership of errors quickly and without excuses actually builds credibility. It shows the speaker is honest and confident, not defensive. And that's a wrap for English 082. Giving a strong presentation in English and handling tough questions professionally, that's a skill that will open doors in any career. You now have the language to do it.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe and share it with someone who's preparing for an important presentation. We'll see you next time. You've got this.